Hello, everybody. Welcome to, oh, hold on. I have to bring Jennifer in. Sorry about that. All right, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Lens. I am your host, Carl Hansen. Tonight, we have a live edition of Behind the Lens, which I'm excited to bring to you with a number of my filmmaking team that made Late for Dinner, our entry into this year's Easterseals Disability Film Challenge. A little bit about the film challenge. You probably saw it in the description, but it is a filmmaking challenge that takes 5 days. You have 5 days to complete a short film, specifically with people with disabilities, both in front of and behind the lens, is what they encourage. And I encourage everybody not just to watch our film, which I will show you here in just a moment to get us started, but to check out all the Disability Film Challenge films on YouTube and Facebook. There's over 130, I want to say, over 120 amazing films that I highly encourage everyone to check out. But without further ado, I am going to share our film Late for Dinner, and then that'll kick off our discussion. So give me a moment here, and we'll share my screen. And here we go.
There's no excuse, Dennis. I can't do this anymore.
All of this because I just mentioned the idea of leaving for a year.
You don't get it. It's more than that. You always walk away when things get difficult for us.
It's just a year. And it'll help me out financially. You know, I'll finally be able to afford to buy you gifts. I can buy a car. Maybe we can go on vacation. It's just, I'm tired of feeling like I'm always drowning.
I don't want fancy gifts and trips to Cabo. I want someone who can commit. You're not that person. You're not my person. I'm done and I'm leaving.
Since when were you trying?
Really? That's what you're going to say? I'm done. I'm leaving.
What? Hey, Kira, stop.
I leave you too if you talk to me like that.
Enough, Sarah. I know that you love that things aren't working because things didn't work out with us, but I can't deal with this right now.
You could never deal.
Are you serious? You packed a bag.
Wake up, Dennis. This is all happening because you have a hard time of letting things go that don't serve you anymore.
She's come back. To the party.
What's that supposed to mean?
Are you kidding me right now? What about Chelsea?
Yeah. What about me?
Don't go there.
Chelsea didn't love you.
I told you, for me, it's got the six. Me too.
Kira, stop.
And you and Joan would have never worked. She was too successful for you to even handle.
Stop.
A year ago, I would have forgiven you and I would have empathized because you lost your sister. But you have to stop blaming yourself because it was so long ago. You need to heal.
I'm fine.
You always run away from me, from her, from them. Here's the thing, Dennis. As much as you think that life is unfair, you'll realize that you're not alone.
Well, that's hard to do when no one sees you.
You aren't alone because no one sees you. You're alone because you refuse to see yourself.
You don't know me.
I spent so much time doing everything to make you feel limitless. But the reality is, you never wanted it.
I just need a year. Okay? I would make so much money in that time. Okay? Things would be so much better for both of us. I'd be a different person then. I'd be a different person with that.
How much will ever be enough? I don't have a year to waste. I'm sorry. I wish you peace, success, whatever it is that you're looking for. Because it's clear to me now that you are the only one that's haunting yourself.
This is a call from inmate Dennis Lattimore. This is a privileged call that will not be recorded. If you do not wish to accept this call, please hang up now.
Hi, Dennis. I spoke with the prosecutor. They're offering a deal, plead guilty to second-degree murder of Kira Jones, and they'll drop the first 3 charges on the other 3. You'd get 25 years, eligible for parole after 17.
I'm just asking you to hear me out. I need a year. That's it. Do you even realize what I'm capable of doing in that time? The kind of money I can make. This isn't just good for me. It's smart for everyone.
Dennis, I need you to focus. What about the plea deal?
Have you ever been to Cabo in May? I'll give you one of those straw hats.
I'm late for dinner. Got nothing to wear. In front of my mirror for hours, I just sit and stare. And I never told you what I'm really. If I'm late for dinner, oh, would you even care?
All right. So that was Late for Dinner. Let me stop sharing this. All right, there we go. So I'm going to introduce our team. A lot of people you just saw who made that film. We were required to make a thriller suspense film. That was the genre for this year's Disability Film Challenge. So first, I'd like to introduce Scott Rosendahl, who played Dennis. Welcome, Scott.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Or I'm going to also bring in Angela Rockwood, who played Kira. Welcome.
Hi.
Angela, hi. So good to see you. All right. I'm also going to bring in Megan Clancy, who played Joan. Hi, Megan. And we're going to bring in our fabulous co-producer here, Diana Elizabeth Jordan. Welcome, Diana. And last but not least for tonight, we have our incredible composer, who probably did the quickest work that ever gets done on these films, but yet we gave them even a little more time this time. We can talk a little bit more about that in depth, Izzy, when we talk music here. But welcome everybody. That I think it's amazing that we can all sit here and watch this project that we worked on. What was it, 2 weeks ago at this point? We shot 2 weeks ago today, and the project was finished on that Sunday night. So I'm curious, and maybe Angela, I'd love to kind of start with you, because this was your first real foray right into the Disability Film Challenge. And I know you said you were trying to get back into acting. To talk maybe a little bit what this project was like for you.
Oh, I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was so fun. First, I always say, like, whatever, I have to be careful what I say, good or bad, when I put out there, because I'll manifest it. And first, I'd like to say thank you to David Zimmerman for introducing us again because I was sharing with David that, yeah, I'm back in LA and I want to get back into acting. And I heard about the film challenge. And one of my dearest girlfriends is also helps Nic Novicki, Mia Shaikowitz. And so David was like, oh, yeah, Carl Hansen is looking for a place. So, that's where it started. And of course, she came over to the house and we were chatting and everything. So right there, I already was getting excited. And I already called you out on, I was like, I'm going to put so much pressure on you, Carl, because this is suspense and thriller. It's my genre. We have to do this right. So I'm so happy of how everything turned out. I loved working with everyone, with Scott, my girl Jamie, and Megan, and Shannon, and everyone. I felt like I was on Push Girls again in the house. It was amazing. So thank you. And Diana, even though I get to work with Diana, but the part that she's on it too, I'm just like, it's like I feel like family. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, then welcome to the family. Welcome to the team. I think for us, and for me, having done the Disability Film Challenge since 2018, but doing timed filmmaking challenges since 2005, right? So it's the team has kind of morphed and grown and changed over the years. And once you're in, you're in. So thank you for agreeing to be a part of it this year and for lending us your beautiful home.
No, thank you.
It was an awesome experience.
Thank you, Carl.
True. And I think that's also what makes this team aspect so beautiful too, is it really requires everybody's involvement to make the film that we just saw, right? It's like, it's not just like a singular vision that comes out of, an auteur's head, which I think is a lot of filmmaking, like Christopher Nolan or Spielberg, you get a lot of those people with that kind of vision, but that's not how these projects work, right? And it needs everybody's involvement. Scott, I would love to kind of talk with you because you have been through this now a number of times, not just as your own team leader, but also as part of this team. What was this year's experience like for you?
Well, given that we had the script maybe an hour into our our shooting time, I guess, that was an extra although, to be honest with you, in most instances, we're not seeing a script until day of anyway, right? But getting a script a little bit later just adds a little extra pressure. But it's called a challenge for a reason, right? So I'm up for the challenge. I also want to thank Angela for giving us access to her house for this shoot, because I think we had quite a lot of space to work with in her dining room. Like, I don't have much room in my place. I shoot my self tapes in the kitchen. That's the space I have. So it's nice to be able to work in that space where people things can be moved around. I have produced a couple times for this challenge, and it can be a little overwhelming to take on, the extra task of producing and acting. And so being that I could just act in this relieved some of that pressure that comes with having to organize everything. And, I had to focus on one day as opposed to all 5 days.
Right. And memorizing all the dialogue, right, that ended up being primarily you and Angela having the majority of it. And I know, Scott, you've gotten scripts, being able to turn it around very quickly in the past, while the preference probably is to get it a little more in advance to be able to work on it. But, I know, Angela, you had mentioned that too. Like, what was it like getting the script at, I think it was 10:46 a.m. is when it was time stamped in my email when we finally got the draft that we were ready to shoot?
Oh my God, like what Scott said, it was about an hour before we started shooting. And I remember when you handed it to me, I was like, what? I have to memorize all of this? It was like 5 pages. I was like, oh my God, it's like 3 hours of sleep. Okay, Angela's like saying, I got to memorize this. I got to look good on camera. And, the other thing is too, is it was a very intimate scene. Scott was my boyfriend, and I just met Scott that morning. I met everyone that morning, and it was just like magic because we ran the lines and everything. And after we did the lines a couple of times, when we took our break, even when we did lunch, I didn't really get to talk to Scott. It wasn't until after then we had a break. And after really diving into it and reading it a couple times with him, you know, I was sharing with him how life imitates art, or art imitates life. And I just started to open up with him and felt very close with him at that moment, because I said, you know what? I was like, this is like something that I went through just recently. And then he was sharing a little bit about what he was going through in his life. And I felt closer, and I said, you know what? And it made the scene even more magical at that moment. So it's interesting how it all came together, considering we only received the script within an hour. And then from that point, it just started coming out very natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what's so beautiful to me whenever we make these films is what I call like the magic of the film challenge, right? Sort of, it takes all these elements to kind of come together into what, you know, ends up being the finished project. But, you know, Angela, I never worked with you before. You know, I had seen some of your work, but, you know, I didn't know sort of the depth and what you were going to be able to do in a very immediate sense, right? Because it's very quick. And I knew it's like, because we shot your side of that first, like I knew towards the end, once we saw your side, I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. Because I knew Scott was going to bring it. Like I knew what Scott was able to do. And I've worked with him, you know, so much that I knew what you guys were going to be able to then do together. And it was magical watching that come together, because it isn't just you guys in that room, right? There's an entire group of people also you know, behind you and doing. You would never know that watching that film. I mean, I want to play, and Diana, you did that awesome behind the scenes you know, video that I want to play in a little bit. You guys will be able to kind of see what the layout of the shoot was. And it was tight with all the gear and the people in there, but to do that kind of intimate scene, you know, and you guys were in it, I felt it in the room. Like I was emotionally, I mean, the crew, I think, applauded after each of your performances at the end of that film, legitimately. And I in fact was tearing up. So it was magical, and there was power and energy in that space that we all bring together. Megan, I want to ask you, you know, you've also been your own team leader. You had your own film in addition to being in this one, in this year's competition. Maybe talk a little bit about what the experience was like for you, being just an actor in ours, and then also being, you know, running your own team.
Yes, absolutely. Well, of course, I knew that Carl was doing this team. Of course, I was very motivated and wanted to join in with your team. And I know you have this gift, a creative, amazing story. Even if you're just stuck with nothing in an empty room, I know that Carl and the team can figure this out and develop a real story for the audience. It's very creative. And each of you, I just, you know, I cherish all of you. You're stars. And you can hear fine or not. I'm different, I know, because I realize, you know, of course I'm deaf, but it doesn't matter. I feel like I really bonded with your family, the family that came to us during this time. And it was a very positive experience. I will never forget that. And, you know, sometimes, you know, when I'm working with, let's say, different projects as an actor, a different character, it's easy to forget that these are people, and these people are able to tell a story and able to do so well and so greatly. And I just enjoyed this experience so much. I enjoyed Shannon with her telling me, look, her stories and her lines. And she's like, well, if I'm talking to you, you know, don't talk to me like that. Like, for example, we're just really kind of making fun and having a good time doing it. And Jamie, of course, with her, I love her. And, we just had a great time. We had fun. And here we are making, this story, making it real and honest. And I mean, it looks like a thriller at first, maybe when you see it, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, there's a double thing going on here, especially with Scott and Angela. Let's say, of course, there was a lot of tension and going on, and as an actor myself, just being on the team, and I found it very wonderful to learn, because I'm not an expert. I'm an actor for the most part, and my videography experience, would be like with an iPhone, or maybe my mom talking to my friends. But, when you're filming, that's difficult, and it does require a team effort. It requires a lot. Natalie, of course, Dalio, like the writer who, wrote from our team last year. Carmates. She did a great job. And people loved the story. It just works out great when you have a lovely team, a great writer, great actors, a great crew. And I watched Derek, who, just did a lot of work, making it look like it was evening if it wasn't, but pulling the shades down. What a great job. Wow, the crew was great. And it really looks very professional, high quality. I enjoyed that. And, if you're stuck with an iPhone, for example, you can, if you have a great story and abilities, you can do that. But I do remember working with me the first time, and the technology support in a garage, and we had to make it look natural with the lighting and everything.
Tech support. Yeah, the film tech support.
Yes, tech support.
Yeah. That was
Thank you
awesome.
so much.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I think to Bowen, who was our DP, and Scoop, Derek, who was on our camera department, really made that place look, Angela, made your place just really look, in some ways, so beautiful, and yet also so ominous at the same time, right? Sort of, kind of get that sort of feeling just through the lighting and the texture. And, I had made the decision earlier with Bowen that we were going to shoot day for night, which caused some production delays because of what it was going to take to make it look like that. But I think just in the end, the way that it looked truly gave the film such a texture, and
Absolutely.
right. It really did that. And actually, I want to bring Izzy G back here onto the stage. Speaking of texture and adding tension, Izzy came in as he always does at the very last stage of production, right? Of post-production. You're one of the very last people to get your hands on it. And at that point, the story's pretty much structured where it is. And now you get to add your layer. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like for you, Izzy, and what it was like getting this particular project?
Well, you guys can hear me, right? I was having some technical issues. Okay.
Yep, no, can hear you. We got you.
Okay, good. Well, like Carl said, usually I get it last minute. As it goes, I think score and sound are literally like the last two, and then final cut before upload. But this time I got it a little earlier than I normally do. So I, because I'm on the East Coast now, I literally had all day to work on it, and so that's what I did. But usually it is, I only get like 2 or 3 hours, but this time I could take my time with it. I could kind of roll different ideas around, and then asking, Carl and Andrew what they thought were good, what a good fit for this film would be. And they're like, oh, like, focus more on the end. We don't need music all the way through as, per usual. So I was like, okay, let me find a good place to start at the end. And I did. And, I know this is supposed to be like a ominous type of film. So I was like, all right, let's keep it like, let's keep it anonymous, you know. Um, so that's what I did, and then he's like, oh, like we want like this like build up like this crescendo at the end, and so I kind of started layering things on each other, and
And do you
just
do that
building up
based
to
on
that.
your own feeling of the, what I mean? It's like, how do you, when you build those tracks? Because I remember when you sent it, you're like, I've got something I think you're going to like. And I'm like, how do you get to that point with those tracks? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you build that? Are you feeling that tension? Like, how do you build it?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just pretty much like a build up. Start low, and just keep building. Like, you got to think like, oh, like make the heart race. Like start building up that tension, and then because you were like, oh, it's going to be like a crescendo at the end. So I was like, all right, so we're building up to a huge, like boom moment, like a huge explosion at the end there. So that's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, well, it's so effective. That's the thing. It's like with you and Tyler Struck, who also, I mean, he really came at the last second and added just some additional sound design, which I think really was effective, like that clock, just ominous clock ticking from the very, very get-go that you're not quite sure exactly what that sound is when it starts, but then it becomes very evident. I think once the real clock start ticking too. So you guys together, I mean, as the soundscape of this film really made it something that puts people in that space, right? I mean, it's really amazing, to hear every element as it comes together, get every element, and then as it comes together, feel like it gets put together in this package. It's like, oh yeah, as a whole together, this thing is incredible. The individual pieces have to come together in that way. But an amazing job, Izzy, as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always a joy working with you. Because the other thing too is,
Same
it
here.
isn't also just, in some instances, it's whatever you send gets put into the film as is, because there's zero time, right? It's just like that's sort of what happens. In this instance, there was actually a few back and forth, right, where we got a chance to work on that a little bit, which I also really enjoyed.
And I just wanted to say, this is my 5th year working with Carl and everybody, and some of you I've watched over the years, so I just wanted to compliment you all on just the amazingness you all bring to the table, just different acting, different genres of films we've all kind of been through. So thanks for the journey.
Really, we've done sci-fi, horror, suspense, thriller, romance. I think we did comedy. What versatility! You know what I mean? It's like we getting a chance to be able to do that as a team. And Diana, you and I started as competitors, right?
Yeah.
You were doing other films. Same with Scott, right? We were competitors. Megan too, and then. We've grown into collaborators, which I truly appreciate and always love being able to do that with you on screen and now off, right? Let's talk a little bit about what the experience was like for you this time.
It was interesting because I always love doing the competition because as an actor, I do get to do a different genre, but I had a commitment. I was performing at one person show in Minnesota. I was like, oh, Carl, maybe I could do a voice or whatever. I was so excited that Angela was going to be a part of it because Angela is a soul sister of mine is at Megan. I mean, one thing I love about this is you work with your artistic and loving family. And but you know, I had a commitment. But what I realized, which was really powerful, is that when I saw the film, it was okay that I wasn't in it. And I mean that from the point of view that I still got to be a co-producer, and my dreaming big on this thing, entertainment, is manifesting dreams through the power of storytelling. That is my mission. And so I feel like I did that. And just because I wasn't seen, I still got, Angela got to did her first film for the challenge, and that was her dream. So I got to be part of that. And I love suspense. So I was just so honored and proud just to like be a part of it in a different way. And I really realized that producing is another love. And it's not like, what do I love better? Am I going toward, you know, am I giving, no, I'm not giving up acting. It's like, you know, when people say, well, what's your favorite thing? It's like asking me what my favorite nephew, who my favorite nephew is. I don't have a favorite. I got to do something I love and be a part of something I love and do it, help support people I love. And, you know, everyone on the team I have so much love and respect for, not only as beautiful human beings that inhabit the planet, but beautiful artists. And what I'm realizing about the competition, because I usually choose to act and produce because it is a lot of pressure. And so I choose what works best for me, and not to be a team leader, but to be a part of a team in a different way, is that each year we do a different genre, and each year it is about the competition. Yeah, it's a competition, but it's also about getting the message of the power of diverse images of disability and deafness on screen. And that's, you know, it's a suspense thriller. You know, this one just happened to be acted by the majority of the cast have disabilities, but it's still a story. It's a beautiful story about, you know, a guy who apparently killed off his girlfriend. I'm not laughing at that, like, haha, but it's like Dateline. If like God, the character could be on Dateline, it would be really awesome. You know? Yeah, he'd be like, you know, can't, you know, that, but that's what I love about this, and that's why I think this challenge is so important as we continue to further collectively our message about inclusion in the film. And like I said, you know, I had that in my behind the scenes I did was, you know, I think Stephen Uber, so if you want to do a film, make your own. And that's what we did, and it's a wonderful film, and I'm just really proud again of everyone. And I love everyone here so much. And I'm just really honored that I got to play a teeny little part of that. So I'm very grateful.
Well, and I'm incredibly grateful to have you on the team, even if you weren't able to be, you know, physically present for it, and you know, having your support from afar and with the awareness campaign, because that's the other thing too, just for the audience to know, you know, we're in our awareness campaign phase right now, that, you know, we want people to, as many people as possible, to see our film for sure, right? See you late for dinner. Please like, comment, and share. In fact, we've gotten a few comments here. Don Grabowski, I think some of us know, says congratulations all. David Zimmerman is here, and thank you for joining, David. And then Teresa Shannon's mom says, I caught this waiting for Shannon. The film was so awesome. It was great, Shannon plays Sarah, who says to Scott's character, Dennis' character, like, you could never deal. Oh, I love her delivery of that.
I love that. And can I say one more thing? I produced other great films. Check out Jam. Also, that's another one I co-produced, and Megan did another film also. Because it is about
support
seeing the variety of it. So, Megan, shout out your film too, because I think it's also, again, we want to get views, but more importantly, we want to, we call it the awareness campaign for a reason. And I think you're going to see so many incredible films, incredible, heartbreaking, scary, freaky stories that I still have so many I want to see. So, Megan, please shout out your other film as well, please.
Oh, yes. I really always have enjoyed experiencing collaborations with other team members and, of course, your team. And I really enjoy working with new people as well. Now, with this project, Late for Dinner, this is the first time I worked with Angela. And just being able to see her beautiful home, I was very impressed. Here in LA, and for the first time, I also worked with Jamie Brewer, and it was just a wonderful, positive experience. And I have these great memories, and I hope that you all will continue in film and doing more things in film.
Megan, sorry to interrupt, but the film that you made with Scott Matthew, can you talk a little bit about that particular film? Because we want to promote that project as well. What is the name of that film?
Oh, yes. That's called Karma Meets Justice.
That's right. Karma Meets Justice.
And typically, Natalie, this person who wrote it, for example, was great. And I have to say, with those on my team, they were awesome. But at that time, I did have the flu, and I was not able to, plan. So what I did is I diverted to my team, and then, of course, then Scott lost his team. And so we had to give it to them, but things worked out well because we were working on a team. And I will tell you, Scott has a lot of experience making short films and many other things, many projects. And I have worked with him before as well. And so it was just a very positive experience. I mean, I know, of course, when I arrived at his house waiting for a script, and then I finally got a script, and that's what happens. And then, of course, you need to read it and try to memorize your lines. But there was something going on that was really fantastic. You're there all day, and you have to depend on, well, the sunlight. If you're outside, shooting outside, let's have the sunlight stay. And then, of course, if the sun's going down, then we have a different issue. But we were able to do our lines and our filming before that sun went down. But really, it was a great script. I really enjoyed it.
Scott's watching, by the way.
Hey, Scott.
Megan.
Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed the collaborating with new people, the story, everything, how it went. I loved it. And I just love that collaboration and creative people around me. And, one brain is better than one. Whatever we might think of, we can collaborate and come up with other ideas to make the story even better, just with our own collaboration and our own input as creative people. And so it's really wonderful to see that whole process. We have a great story, but I just love the experience and taking on different characters. It's, you know, different. Like, for example, Late for Dinner is different from the other movies that I've done, you know, Meeting Justice, and they're all different. They're just different characters.
Yeah. And it gives you a diversity. Yeah, go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, Hannah E. Cruz directed Jim. It was her first time doing the challenge. She worked with me at Performing at Studio West, and I was so proud of her. So also to be a part, again, part of this thing is just raising awareness. Part of this whole competition run by Nic Novicki. Yay, Nick! We all love Nick. He's so amazing. But yeah, but there's so many films, and the thing that's great, audience, is the films are 5 minutes, so you can watch an hour or take a half hour, and you can see 4 or 5 really good films. Take a break, and then watch a half hour later. So you don't have to watch all 121 at the same time. But really take some time, especially this weekend, because the awareness campaign goes till Sunday night. But even if you don't get them in, then get them and they'll see them.
Yeah, and I think it actually goes till Monday.
Oh, Monday. Go till Monday. My bad.
Yeah, until I think 11:59 p.m. But so go like, watch, comment, and I guarantee you will see films unlike films you'll have seen before. Really definitely encourage you to check it out. Now, I do want to share the video, Diana, that you had made. Let me try and bring that up. Here, give me 1 second here. Navigate to that. So let's see. Can you see that? See my screen there, guys?
Yes.
There we go. Is the music playing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Great job, Diana. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing that.
It was fun. It was fun to do it. But, because I felt like I got to be a part of it in a way by looking at all the pictures and then just finding a way to put it. Because you're not trying to do the film, you're really just trying to show the hard work behind the scenes, and that's, so that was like developing that skill is something I really want to work on as well.
Yeah. No, and being able to have that support from afar and be able to get your your expertise in image choosing, so I think you did a great job, and it really gives a sense and the flavor of what it was like being on the set, and hopefully you all could see the audience at home what it really looked like behind the scenes to make it. I mean, you would never be able to tell what it was like there, without having been there. And by design, right? You're not supposed to kind of see what goes on behind the scenes, but very important to me, obviously, to highlight that and show the team's work. Like B. Poley, who was our production designer, did an amazing job making it look the way that it did. There was soup on the table, and you really didn't get a sense for what this soup was, but it was like this blood-colored red. I mean, it was like congealed. Like if you look closely at it, it was not an appealing looking soup, but by design, again, she made it that way. And so it all the elements did. It all came together in this really, really beautiful way. Now, Diane, I know you had kind of mentioned, even just half jokingly, obviously, hopefully the audience doesn't see the murderers coming, right? That it's sort of like this layered reveal. And something that I kind of wanted to address, and Angela, you and I have kind of talked a little bit about this offline, but what was the idea that led to this idea? I think it came from our initial discussion about domestic violence that we were talking about, which I thought was an incredibly heavy topic, to try and tackle in a short amount of time. So I almost was like, I don't know if we can do that. And then we ended up doing a little bit in that regard, but also really from a mental health perspective. You had sent me a few articles and links to things talking about the mental health crisis and how many deaths occur. Do you want to talk any more, in depth about that piece of it? Because I think it's important, for us to discuss.
Oh gosh, yeah. We had a meeting prior on Zoom. Carl had a meeting with everyone where we were kind of brainstorming, and off the Zoom and in person or through text message, I was sharing with Carl about intimate partner violence, because we kept going around that circle. And so when this script came out, I was looking at it, and the fact that the character, Scott's character, killing all of the gals, but the more I thought about it, I realized it has a lot to do with the mental illness. And it's so funny, you say things and all of a sudden it just like pops up. And just like yesterday, the other day, I was reading an article about just here in Los Angeles, on La Cienega, there's a store that's been there forever, ever, like many years. And most people probably don't know about it, but they kept it hush hush. But the owner of the store, she has a home in the back of the store, and she was there, and it was her son, her 78-year-old son, who was there choking her and beating her with a baseball bat. And they were saying that he had a mental illness. The other brother, 50 years of age, had heard her screaming, came running in, and he shot the gun off to basically scare him. But he didn't stop because the mental disorder. And so he had to take his own brother out. And then what's crazy is because of the situation, the next day, I guess, because, obviously it was a mental, they basically said like the brother was able to just go back to work like nothing ever happened. But I do remember I was sending a couple of articles to Carl, and just the rate, the population, or I can't remember the exact number offhand, Carl, but it's pretty high with the deaths of the homicide, just with the mental disorders, and people don't take it seriously.
It was around 8 million. I think it was 8 million you sent.
8 million? Was it 8 million a year?
It was significant. It was a significant number. I'll have to go back and look, but.
I was going to say, I also don't think that we realize how many women with disabilities are survivors and have gone through domestic violence, because we don't always think of us as having those relationships. And therefore, when I was younger, I used to do workshops on domestic violence among women with disabilities, people who become disabled because of domestic violence, is a very significant number. I don't know the statistics, but I think it's very important that that message be out there, which is, again, I think what's beautiful, like Angie said, film can be more than just a film, and I believe this film will have a life after the challenge because of those messages.
Already, this was just 5 years ago when 5 years ago before COVID, when I was educated about the actual intimate partner violence situation with women with disabilities. It was more than 50%, which was shocking to me. It was about 58% of women with disabilities are in mental or physical or emotional abusive relationship as we speak right now. And it's as simple as the lover or the caregiver not allowing the person to have their medicine, or maybe taking their money, or just mentally just controlling them. So it's something that it's a silent situation that a lot of people are not aware of, but it's happening. And it's crazy because I did a whole project about it where I reached out to 100 women with disabilities, and I found out that majority of them were in abusive relationships. And I asked them if they were brave enough to talk about it. And half of them, majority of them, I would say 70% of them, did not want to talk about it because they were still afraid.
That's awful. It's awful. So I looked at the link you sent me, and it was approximately 8 million deaths each year are attributable to mental disorders. Now that's considered worldwide.
It's alarming.
So,
and then you think of serial killers, so.
Yeah. So, while that was not the original intent of the idea that we ended up going with, right? So what's interesting in terms of how the story ends up unfolding, a lot of it ends up coming out of experimentation throughout the day. Sometimes it's a revelation of like, oh, maybe, you won't be dead yet or something, right? I can't remember specifically how it came out in the script, but or in the ideation process. But then once we kind of got it to that place, and now we can look at it as, oh, wait a minute, excuse me, we can apply this lens of, wait, mental health and mental illness is a serious situation that we are now addressing.
I remember there was a lot of spices that were shaken.
Oh, Angela, you froze for a second. Can you hear us? We might. Can you say what you just said again? You froze as you were saying it.
Yeah, it was glitchy. The connection is, sorry, I don't know if it's mine or I remember, like you were saying, because everybody was putting all their different spices into the pot. And in the beginning, when we were brainstorming, we were talking about the movie The Others, where we could say that, because at first it started out with seances. And then we said, well, what if there's a dinner party? Because someone was saying a murder mystery. And then they were saying, well, what if there's a gathering, but you don't know that there's some that are dead, that they're ghosts. And so that's where it led to. And then once you got the script, you handed the script to us, that's where it all started to unravel. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the more we got in depth about what the relationship was about, then I realized, okay, our boyfriend has a mental disorder.
Right. And what an amazing reveal that is at the end. I mean, it just like, oh. If you haven't seen it, I don't, well, if you didn't see it, like, go see the reveal. It's like the best reveal ever.
Well, the thing is, they're hallucinating, thinking he's having this dinner party. And it's interesting, obviously at the end, when he's there in his and when you guys, oh my gosh, I just remember when Scott just started screaming and Mr. Bear was like going back and forth on the floor, and I was like hushing him because I didn't want him to start barking or anything, because he could feel the wailing and the terror and the pain that Scott was feeling, just everything. There were so many different emotions. And I could see my dog, Mr. Bear, just like going back and forth. He was confused whether to save him or to help him or to be scared. He didn't know. And then once I saw the end, when you sent it out and how you ended it, because obviously everybody was released, we all wrapped up, but Scott still had more of his scenes to do. And as he was sitting there laughing in his insane way, I was like, oh God, this is going to be so terrifying. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
He's mentally deranged.
My mom, by the way, an executive producer of this film, she was supposed to come out for it, but unfortunately was unable to for health reasons. So she contributed financially to help make the film a reality. And she is terrified of Scott. And with every film we've made,
sorry, Carl's mom.
someday, when you guys get introduced, you'll know not to be terrified of you. But I mean, what's the record now, Scott? Do we know? Remember either where you have died or you have killed, right? It's like those are sort of the two options in various projects we've done.
I think it's at least 90%.
And I think that time we have to give Mr. Bear a cameo, because I was like, at one point, Mr. Bear was like, when are these people leaving? That's right. Like, oh my God.
Mr. Bear was a great host. And by the way,
at first Carl was going to have a minute.
That's right. At one point I was like, oh, let's put Mr. Bear in it. But while Mr. Bear is not, present physically in the film, the portrait of him is behind Scott. So actually he is in the film. He's just in that portrait on Scott's cover.
Well, I had to include him in behind the scenes. It was so cute. Like, oh, I can't leave Mr. Bear out.
Mr. Bear kept everybody happy. He had a lot of belly rubs that day. He was so spoiled.
Loved his belly rubs. Oh, Mr. Bear. Well, we're getting close to closing here. I just kind of wanted to ask, if anybody else had any specific comments or things that they wanted to bring up that we didn't get a chance to talk about what this process was like. The one thing I will tell everybody is the very last scene that you were just referencing, Angela. When Scott was rocking back and forth. So we shot that obviously on Friday when we did everything, but the audio of the phone call, I did the automated voice recording and recorded a conversation with Scott and Michael Vaccaro on my phone. Was it on Sunday morning, Scott? Did we do it on Sunday, like before the deadline, or is it Saturday?
I can't remember now.
I think it was Sunday. I think it was Sunday morning.
I'm pretty sure it was Sunday, actually, but
yeah,
I could check that
because we hadn't figured out what that scene was yet, as we figured out in the editing. And Andrew Kadikian, who I need to say a major shout out to, did an amazing job with the editing, and was able to really help build that suspense in the end, and also during Scott, when you're screaming, he added those quick flash cuts, which I think adds a very disturbing element to that moment.
Yeah, it was Sunday for.
It was Sunday morning. Yeah, so that was the day of that it was due, right? And we're still coming up with things and trying to figure it out, because the one thing that I want to tell also aspiring filmmakers and people who want to make films is, worry less about what your original intent was, and the outcome of that, right? Whatever the film is may not be what you originally intended, but the audience doesn't really care what you originally intended. All you need to worry about is focusing on making it good. Every step of the way, make it good. Bring on the best acting talent that you can. Bring on the best composing talent and music talent that you can. Kevin Stafford, who turned around that amazing song, our end credit song, in a matter of hours. I mean, maybe 2 hours.
I'm stuck in my head all week.
right? It's just like, and by the way, he did 4 films that week. Like, Kevin is a prolific songwriter, but get the best kind of talent for these. And so when bring an amazing team together and give people the opportunity to shine and do their best work, even under pretty extreme circumstances and timelines, you get really amazing art and amazing films. So so just kind of focus on making it good, work with the best people you can, find an amazing group and team of people who support you and who you support. And I will say, it really does feel like a family. It really is my chosen family and my film family. And I love you guys. And I really, really, best times that I have throughout the year is doing that. So,
can I say one thing? The other thing I would say to first-time filmmakers is, or it is a competition, but don't focus on winning. Focus on making your art. And don't get me wrong, the winning the award, all that stuff is really nice, but focus on making your art. And that everything else that happens, awesome. But truly, everything that Carl said, focus on making your art, because that's what we're here to make art, because art changes the world. And I think, especially in where we are as a human race, art can change the world. So focus on making your art and what your message is to the world.
Absolutely. 100%. I think, Megan, did you have something?
Yes, I think that's very true. We're making stories, we're changing the world. You just never know who you might impact. And they could be in other countries. They may see, what we're doing in our stories. And I think that's a very good point. And also, I wanted to say, for example, like when you're making a film, a short film, it can be painful. It's a lot of work, yes. But the stories that are told in and of themselves are eternal. And they're there forever. And these stories can be told again and again, right? 50 years from now, we can still see these stories and they can still be viewed by audiences all over the world within the future. So I think that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's important to realize, and Diana, you mentioned this too, it's made for this competition. These films are made for this particular competition, but they can go on and our films have gone on to other film festivals. What that does is it gives us a platform to then also talk about accessibility, diversity, inclusion, all the things that are important in terms of also talking to other filmmakers, right? So then you get to talk to these other people. I've gone to multiple film festivals now and taught accessible filmmaking workshops on the heels of getting the films into the festival, so that I now can also talk about not only how we made it, and how it's possible to disabilities, and that it's the same. There's no real difference other than what we have to figure out accommodations wise, and then making that happen, because everybody has accommodations, right? So it really allows the art that we make that then goes out into the world, then we can help influence other artists and other filmmakers as well with that. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a really, really beautiful thing that we get a chance to do. And I absolutely love it.
Also, if you would remember Blackbird, the film at the festival, remember the first time when it was captioned because of tech support, that film. And so what a great influence. And so we saw how that influenced accessibility, and also just being able to learn how to work with actors with diverse needs and disabilities and artists. I mean, the stories work. Diversity is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much, Carl. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, all of you. Of course, your spirit is precious.
That's thank you, Megan. Thank everyone. You know, we're at time here, and I really appreciate everybody coming on Friday night. Izzy on the East Coast, you're 3 hours ahead of us, so
Okay.
appreciate the lateness of
That's
it.
all right. Thank you.
And yeah, you know, I look forward to the next one that we get a chance to do together. Again, I highly encourage everybody to please go watch, like, and share all the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge films. You can go to YouTube, you can find them on Facebook, go to the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge pages, and you'll be able to see these films. And yeah, thank you guys all for joining. So I'm gonna take us out here, and really appreciate you joining us today for another edition of Behind the Lens, and hope you all have a great night. Take care, everybody. I'm gonna get the
Thank
music.
you. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
All right.